What my teacher never told me. This one is a very common one that can be added to the list of teachers, parents, counselors, general adults who are speaking into the lives of young people who are at the edge of adulthood, culturally and legally, often are not telling them or laying out for them the cost of college in a very real way in regard to their future. Now, I know teachers who do, and I try to be one of the teachers who does not follow those same pressures, but I draw this on the board for my students to talk about the reality of the crisis of student loans and paying for debt and giving up years of your future. Student loans have just, student loan debt has just crossed over the line into 1.7 actually trillion dollars, $1.7 trillion. It is recognized widely as a crisis point, although the news calls everything a crisis. But I think this and the national debt in general really is an economic an economic crisis. This makes the average student loan debt about $37,000 plus interest and about 18.5 years on average to pay off. Now, in the course of a discussion with my students about debt, the biggest debt that they're being pressured into right now is taking on student loan debt for the cost of an education. And the point of this video is not to talk about all the problems that caused this. Look, there's printing money, there's inflation, there's federally backing student loans, and then saying it's a crisis, but still loaning this money out. There's all kinds of things going on with this. There's the cost of college. As college got more money in the 1960s from the government, the colleges started raising prices and offering more fringe benefits and other things that were connected with it. It's harder to buy a house now for the similar reasons of the creation of economic bubbles through the virtual printing of easy money into the economy, the lowering of the interest rates artificially, the building up of businesses and industries that eventually reach a reality point and then they crash and return to reality, and it's very painful. All that is true, but there's not a lot we directly as individuals can do about that. Awareness is a battle of that I think is important, but I'm just talking about student loans. So here's the average 17, 18-year-old. The average 17, 18-year-old is under tremendous pressure to take out loans that are only appropriate for someone, frankly, older than them, usually more responsible than them to be a good investment to pay those loans back, and a loan that would only be appropriate really for an appreciating asset like buying a house. But we take people who are teenagers, put them under tremendous pressure through school that you've got to get an education, and education can be a very important thing. And it can be a huge challenge because of the cost of education. And it can be worth it. Some jobs you need a particular education or a college degree. So I'm not minimizing any of that. But for this 4-year period here, we put 17 and 18-year-olds under tremendous pressure to sign up for or sign up with their parents for, co-sign a loan for 4 years of college. And now on average, what that comes out to, we looked this up. I was having this discussion, drawing out this line, and I didn't know what the numbers were. And it's even actually more so than this, but I drew out this line and said, what's the average amount to pay off student loans? Somebody Googled it, looked it up for me. We came to about 18.5 years, and dollar amount, $25,000 plus interest. And so the way I put it to students, and the way I put it over and over again, is, are you willing to give up this span of 18.5 years of your future of payments and $25,000 of future money plus a mountain of interest. Because what often happens is this: there's a 17 or 18-year-old who takes out these loans to pay for college. They go to college for a number of years. Ideally, they finish and get their 4-year bachelor degree. Now, this may or may not be a selling point for them getting a job. Let's hope that it is. But 50% of students who go to college don't finish. And whether you finish or not, if you've taken out the loan, you are still morally and legally responsible to pay it back. And students often co-sign with their parents, which means that if they, an 18-year-old, a 22-year-old, whatever the case may be, does not pay it back, parents are responsible. And these loans are federally backed, so this includes everybody. These loans are backed up by the federal government, which doesn't have money of its own. It taxes, prints, or borrows money. And so everybody's helping to pay for it. And then a crisis point is declared, and the loans are still given out. Now, let's say they finish that 4 years, they do get that degree, they do get that job. Excellent. That is wonderful. It's a great process. But what they have signed up for is usually another almost 20 years of payments, which opportunity cost is one of the most basic rules in economics. Opportunity cost is very simple. What you and I give up when we choose one thing is our opportunity cost. If I sleep an extra hour, nothing wrong with that, but I have given up using that hour on alternatives. All those things were my opportunity cost. And so what could you have done with 18.5 years and $25,000 plus a mountain of interest? And often what happens is people are making minimum payments on this all throughout the 18.5 years. And they get somewhere in here where it's like, wow, are they near the end? Well, not necessarily, because if they've just been paying off the minimum payments to keep the interest back, they've just been paying this part, the interest. They have not been taking out the principal. And what that means is at the end of this, they can still end up owing the full amount after years of payments. The borrower is slave to the lender. People are signing up for a voluntary form of bondage. Debt is selling ourselves into slavery. Someone else can tell us what to do with our work, our labor, our money before we can. And this is a crisis. And most counselors, teachers, parents are following the same short-term thinking as 17, 18-year-olds, telling them that it's worth it for this 4-year degree to take out this chunk of their future and their future money and income in order to sacrifice it for those 4 years. Now, my suggestion, I won't do a full solution in this video, but my suggestion is that we do it the opposite way. The opposite way is this: commit to sacrifice for those 4 years. Sacrifice in college choice. I don't mean choose a bad college. I mean choose an affordable college. Sacrifice in making a choice to go to cheaper alternatives that provide you the same type of degree. Sacrifice in giving up time to look up scholarships, making that a full-time job. Sacrifice during that 4 years in being frugal in spending, in being disciplined and being on a budget and working. It's not a threat usually to someone's GPA that they are working 16 to 20 hours a week. Sometimes and often it's actually a boost to their GPA because there's an added level of accountability for their time. And so the way we ought to be putting this to students, people can make their choices whatever they want to do. But I think we should put it to them this way. Would you rather give up 4 years of time and work really hard, find scholarships, be exhausted, put in the work to work a job, find a job, and to pay for college, to get financial support from all these other sources before going to loans, and sacrifice for this next 4 years in order to be free here? Or sacrifice here in order to maybe get that 4 years? Now, obviously, I think one is better than the other. People are free to do whatever they want. However, I think that it's clear it's better to sacrifice in terms of the burden of debt and years lost to it and financial bondage. It's better to sacrifice in the beginning those 4 years and reap the rewards in the future, rather than to sacrifice future earning and years of life which you cannot get back.